Hi, this is Simon Upstell and welcome to another tutorial for Apple Motion. And today we're going to be taking a look at creating this interesting text division animation. So quite sexy, but surprisingly simple to do. Let's take a look. Okay, for our project setup, let's go with 1920, 1080, 24 frames a second, duration of 6 seconds. And the first thing we want to do is give ourselves some text. So let's select the text tool, type our word, let's center it up, and over here as well. Let's make it nice and big like this. I want to turn on the overlays and the grid, overlays grid, just so I can get it lined up in the center. And let's just adjust it like that with the baseline. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this group. So right click, make clone layer. And then I'm going to turn off that original text group. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come into the library generators and we are going to look for gradient. And let's come over to the inspector. Let's open up the gradient. Let's make this fully white and let's make this fully black. Okay, so we've now got a black and white gradient. Let's select this tag here. Set the interpolation to constant and then select this black tag and set its location to 50. And this is kind of quite a simple way of getting a black and white divider like this. And then we can use this, if we turn it off, we can use it to mask our text. So right click, add image mask. So as you can see, I've added that to the cloned version of the text. And we're going to use that group with the divider in it as the source. And we're going to switch to luminance. So now we've got the top half of our text, so we can rename this as top. Let's go ahead and duplicate that, right click duplicate, and let's call it bottom. And then all we need to do is come into the image mask and invert it. And now we've got both halves of our text. So we need to turn both of these groups to fixed resolution. And let's start with the top and let's come over to filters and distortion and let's grab bulge. So for the amount, I want 720, which I'm just going to turn off that bottom while we work here. And for the scale, I'm going to go with -1. Now, you'll see that we've got this bit here, which we don't really want, these sort of horrible tonsils. And what we need to do is we need to adjust our Y center till we no longer see them, like that. And you can see that if I move it along, oh no, I haven't quite sorted it out. We just need to go a little bit further. Just there. Let's go with -130. Depending on what text you're going to use, you'll need to just finesse that. But there we go. I think we've done pretty well there. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to add a ramp behavior to this X position. Let's first of all just reset that X position. Actually also going to turn on crop while we're at it. Okay, so let's add parameter behavior and ramp. And we want a start value of, I think, -0.8. and an end value of 0.75. Let's have a look. That's going to take us from there to there. Pretty good, I think. Let's have an end offset of, I think, 10 frames and a start offset of maybe 10 frames as well. So then we're going to get a little bit of a pause, and then we're going to get that. Obviously, we can adjust that speed to taste. I'm keeping it quite slow just so you can see everything that's going on. So then what we can do is we can copy this bulge onto the bottom group. So I'm option dragging it there. Let's turn it back on again. We need to adjust that Y position. Let's turn off the top while we do so. And all we need to do is invert that Y value, so +130, and we should be good. And let's copy our ramp, holding down the option key, drag it onto that group, and you can see it's attached itself to that bulge copy. That's quite handy. We've actually not had to do too much work there. So let's turn it back on again, and you can see we've got our basic divide operation. That already looks quite nice, but let's try and make it a bit more interesting. So I'm going to make a new group that's going to contain both of these. So new group, drag both of those into there. Let's call this base. And then I'm going to clone this group. So right click, make clone layer. Let's just turn off that base group just for the time being. So what I want to do with this clone is I want to come to filters and border and stroke. And I want to turn on hide source, so we hide the original white version. Let's have a width of 2. Actually, first of all, let's set the color to white. And then what we can do is we can come to filters and time, and we can add a trails. So I'm going to set the duration to 0.5, and I think I'm going to have something like 25 echoes. And you can see how nice that is. We get this really nice patterning here as the divide happens. But I don't want it to be white, so let's come over to the library and let's look for gradient. And I'm going to drag it into this group. I'm going to right click and add an image mask. And let's use our clone layer as the source. And now you can see we've got the colors of that gradient. So let's just open up the gradient. Let's set the X start to -960, the Y start to 0, X end to 960, Y end to 0. And let's just choose some colors for our gradient. I'm going to go with something like this, but you can have whatever you want, of course. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a glint filter to this. So come down to glow and glint. Now, glint is much more useful than its name implies. So I'm going to set the exposure to 5. I'm going to set the glint size to 20. Let's turn off the color fringing and set the number of streaks to 2. Now, the thing about glint is you need to be feeding it enough luminance for it to do its thing. So to sort that out, I'm going to select my gradient here, and I'm going to come to color and levels. And then we can just brighten it up just a little bit, just enough to get that glint firing. You can see the difference. It's not getting anything really much there, but as soon as we just increase the luminance a little bit, we're getting this really nice effect. So then we get something like this. So what we need to do is to get this edge effect to fade up and down. So let's select the group. Let's come to behaviors, basic motion, fade in, fade out. Let's set the start offset to 10, the end offset to 10. Let's turn back on our base group and see how it's looking. So that's quite nice. And just to make the obvious point that we can come back down into our original text group, the one we turned off, and we can retype the word, and then if we run it, you'll see the effect is entirely procedural, and that's why we use clones, so that the text could all be driven from this original version. So anyway, that's the effect. Hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.